I've always told myself what draws me into, most games is the narrative, the gameplay, or maybe even just the music alone. And I rarely play games just for the sole purpose of passing time. Okay, I lied just now. There was no need for it either. Persona, Elden Ring, and some of my favorite indie games all have something in common other than just a great soundtrack, story, or gameplay loop. Something that's a combination of all these things and more. One of the first games I ever finished from start to finish is a cult classic and possibly one of the greatest games ever made in my humble, not so humble, shut the fuck up, this is a fact opinion. Nier Automata. Not the first video I've made on it, by the way. Don't check out the other one. It was a game oozing with a completely different type of style from the other games I had tried at the time. Yes, this game makes you feel like you're a normal high school student by day, managing your time efficiently and just having fun in the process. But a thief of hearts at night, bringing justice to evil, bringing light to, and setting balance to a corrupt, capitalistic, Japanese, yes, I'm using that term after corrupt and capitalistic, society. Every aspect of the game blends together to all help prop up that atmosphere. You're small, insignificant, and powerless against almighty, all-powerful beings that you have to slay in order to get stronger as you progress in a land of fallen gods and demigods. Or maybe you simply want that angsty spoon of depression that comes with being a teenager or high school, college student. The fear of not knowing who you are or having to prove that to others. Could never be fucking me. Every single one of these games pulled me into their feeling within the first hour or so of even playing the game. I didn't need to know where the story was going, who the characters were completely yet, or be exposed to the entire soundtrack for that. I knew the type of game I was playing from the immediately. From the get-go, you realize this game is as colorless as a trip to Russia. The skies and objects are toned grey, the spaceship also a shade of grey to match that monochromatic color palette. Somber and desolate. That's what this color palette captures straight from the get-go. The bleakness of a dystopian world. Then 2B does her monologue that perfectly captures just what type of game this is going to be.
Perpetually trapped in a never-ending spiral of life and death. Is this a curse? Or some kind of punishment? I often think about the god who blessed us with this cryptic puzzle, and wonder if we'll ever have the chance to kill him.
No, I don't want to be the guy that says, "Oh, I love a game that has philosophical reasoning, hidden layers to the story, and a deeper meaning about the meaning of life and stuff." The actual meaning of this statement doesn't even actually matter in context of the game, by the way. It's a statement that you need to sit on, one that makes you question. I'll say it again. There's no way to actually know the meaning behind this quote at this point in time, at least at the deepest level. After all, you haven't been given enough clues or context to figure out how this applies to 2B or our cast of characters. We're less than a minute into the game after all, but that doesn't matter. And that's why I love this opening sequence. It sets you up for the game's atmosphere of questioning all things that are going to appear from now until the end of it. One of philosophical reasoning, where nothing is simply black or white. The actual contents of the quote is even a fucking spoiler, so don't look that shit up like I almost did. What matters is introducing the game through a cryptic message and making the audience second guess every choice from this point on. This game never gives you clear-cut answers. Like, you have to literally play it n times to get the answers you want, bro. And even then, you still don't get clear-cut answers. Everything, like this quote, is dripping with ambiguity. This game's atmosphere is dripping with ambiguity. From the fucking intro. But obviously we know what we feel when we play games. But how the fuck is this reclusive, helmet-wearing mystery of a man Yako Taro? Have you ever played a game that just felt like the game just pulled you into that world? Like, completely without your permission most of the time. Like, I'll just hop on a game looking to hate sometimes because I'm not really feeling like completely committing to playing games at that point in my life. And that ass felt like a fly caught in a web. These devs knew what the fuck they were doing to my brain, hitting me with a fucking Sona alt. Atmosphere in gaming is powerful stuff, and Nier Automata is basically my go-to game for this kind of shit. Like, literally I come back here every couple weeks. There are so many definitions you can find for what exactly atmosphere is, particularly in gaming. For example, if I were to say an individual has a positive atmosphere about him, Rogi be saying W aura, presence, feeling, aura, atmosphere. All these words have a similar root, and I think this definition really brings to light what atmosphere entails, not just in gaming, but in general. The link between experience and emotion. What you feel when you consume something. And this isn't done through just one element, such as the visuals of the game or movie, but through every single sensory attribute possible, in sync perfectly to elicit a feeling of resonance in the viewer. Basically a Sona alt. Abandoned cities, the remnants of human civilization, and decaying structures in a desaturated blend creates a world that feels as though it's been forgotten or left behind by time. And then, a quiet, airy and lifeless landscape, filled with nothing but empty husks, meandering around, without a purpose or perhaps just looking for one. There's a lot of air in the song, outside of that soft arpeggio piano or the strings falling and rising dynamically in sync with it. Filled with quiet whispers that come every once in a while to fill in space. This song creates a feeling of yearning, like you're reaching for something out of grasp. Without stepping into spoiler territory, you can see how this song can apply to the game's narrative if you played it. Yet, technically, you haven't even seen enough of the narrative to make that distinction at this point in time. And you feel absolutely no different hearing this song after you play the game as you did before. That's because music is a powerful source of storytelling and atmospheric creation in itself. And certain musical patterns that have been distinguished generally through sound combine to create completely different story beats. I'll get into exactly how this happens, but first let's have a look at one of my favorite examples of this. Bruh, I haven't even played the game this song is from. So when I say you don't need a narrative to evoke emotion or atmosphere in a game, this is it. The soft repeating motives in the piano, the sweeping harmonies in the string, or the haunting ethereal vocals. Can you see how this can be OP when you layer it over something that captures the same meaning? This is how atmosphere is created. In Nier Automata, you only get this song when you enter a very particular location in the game. The Field of Flowers. So tell me, how the fuck a tear is almost coming to my eye just from a song playing within a den of flowers? Let's take music from a horror game. You know, this would usually be slow and it steadily picks up pace as that tension builds, creating unease and anticipation for what is an inevitable climax or scare. A romantic soundtrack would usually also be slow, but instead of tension, it focuses on gentle, melodic tones that evoke intimacy, warmth, and deep emotional connection. I didn't come up with this shit. It was something that fell into place over human civilization, and over time as creative people were inspired and elevated it from the base. Different pieces of the same genre, although they may sound completely different, will always still have that same underlying structure to them. Games like Nier already have a blueprint to work with, so they just have to further elevate. And elevate they did, because every single song is a fucking banger. Look, every single song tells a story and enhances the game atmosphere in some way. The game's language is literally made up of a universal language that's a mashup of French, English, Gaelic, Japanese, and so many other languages called Chaos Language, made specifically just to add to that atmosphere of timelessness. And the singer Emmy Evans, God bless her soul, mimicked the phonetics, tones, and rhythms of these languages while inventing nonsensical words that had absolutely no actual meaning, I'll be real. All this purely just to enhance the emotions reflected in the songs and add to that game's atmosphere. You don't need a description or a setting to know what that story is, but it certainly does help. Listen to this. Now, look at this. Do I even need to fucking know what this game is even about to get engrossed in the narrative this picture is trying to tell? The music is only as good as the environment, the setting, the characters it's in, hence the blood in your body anecdote. Look, as I've said before, the narrative is important for keeping me somewhat engaged and for when I drop the game and reflect on it. Like, a lot of games don't make you go, oh, this is a good story, until the end. The characters and dialogue is important to keep me entertained and make me feel attached and relate to the world I'm in. But for me, the bread and butter of creating atmosphere in games, and therefore keeping you hooked from the start until the end, is the music and the visuals. Visuals for Nier come in all shapes and sizes, from the general colors of things, the shape and design choices for the robots and androids, down to the shape, design and attachment of the weapons on 2B's back. Everything is perfectly crafted to further evolve the game's narrative direction and atmosphere. In Nier, however, this is done in so many fucking unique and downright creative ways. Yes, you can still have creative direction to show how you're going to market the atmosphere you want. Basically, you don't need the same aesthetic to create the same atmosphere. And Nier abuses this fact by completely switching up the visual representation of the game and playstyle, yet still keeping to the exact same atmosphere. Retro ball game, 2D shooter, 3D StarCraft shooter, sideways hack and slash, 3D hack and slash. Bro, this game doesn't give a shit. It knows what it is, and it's basically just letting us know it doesn't care how it shows us that. This is what creating powerful atmosphere in a game feels like. Once you've watched as many shows, played as many games, you start to recognize a pattern in storytelling after a while. And before you know it, the things you used to like, the narratives that used to pull you in, aren't as interesting anymore. So I've developed a taste for being lost. So lost that those same recycled narrative beats, that same character used a million times over, or that same world and setting are almost second place. Because I'm so lost that I don't even notice that. And that's such a fun aspect of this game. You just get completely lost in it. Yes, the story is meaningful and leaves you to ponder on many things. The gameplay is addictive, and you feel like a badass android with all the different ways to play your character. But that's not the selling point for me. Those are just byproducts of being completely immersed in the game. I could have played this game as a kinetic fucking visual novel and enjoyed it. The music is immersive, the visuals and aesthetic unique and priceless. I never at any point felt out of touch with the game world. Whether I was drifting through the forgotten sands of the desert, riding a coaster or in some theme park, or journeying through a land of pure white and plastic, I was always lost in the world that was presented to me. And that's what great atmosphere in games makes you do. Nier Replicant is there for me to play through at some point. And yes, Yoko is still alive, and it has been confirmed that Nier will be getting a sequel. But I truly believe that there will never be another game where every moment, every detail feels crafted with love and intention, pulling you into a world that lingers long after you've put down the controller.